However, humans are subject to many negative factors which cause poor decisions or errors. Some of these are listed here for convenience. Draw the cursor over any word and click for further explanation. Saliency, less obvious cues may be overlooked. Bias, seeking confirmation for a hypothesis. Fatigue, may cause slow reactions. Overload, may be qualitative or quantitative. Overconfidence causes complacency and poor motivation. Status, we'll go on, I've never turned back before. Attention, may be distracted or funneled. Experience, new pilots will make slower decisions. Probability, assuming without checking. Procrastination, I'll decide later. Rationalization, that fault always goes away. Hopes, the weather may be better over the hills. Refusal to review, this worked last time. Stress has many causes, such as lack of time, personal problems, or work conditions. Personality, differences between crew can cause friction and poor decision-making. We will look at this topic in greater detail later. Various approaches to decision-making have been designed, such as this model by Jensen in 1988. The mnemonic DECIDE represents a sequence of events intended to help pilots make effective decisions. Another model, listing risk-based decision-making guidelines, has been designed by British Airways, which uses the mnemonic DODAR. We will look at this model in some detail. First of all, the fault is diagnosed and an objective is defined. Then options are developed, a decision is made, tasks are assigned, and finally the action is reviewed. These steps guide the decision maker along a prepared path of decisions and actions, hopefully to the right solution to the problem. We will expand this model and apply it to the scenario of a fire warning in the cockpit. The first step is to diagnose the problem and define the objective. Is there more than one problem? A fire may cause other lights to flash, such as an electrical short-circuit warning light. Is the aircraft also running low on fuel? Which is the most urgent problem? Confirmation bias may lead to a faulty diagnosis, as where the pilot has had several false alarms already on this flight and assumes that the next time a light appears, it is another false alarm. The time available may be a relevant factor during takeoff or landing. In other stages of flight, time may not be a problem. For example, the aircraft may be put into a hold while the problem is assessed and solved, or a diversion may be possible. Remember that time can often be gained during a flight by proper preparation on the ground. The next step is to collect as much information as possible. Perhaps the flight crew need confirmation from the cabin crew of which engine is on fire. Unbelievably, the pilots of a Boeing approaching East Midlands Airport in 1989 did not seek this confirmation and shut down the wrong engine after a fire warning, leaving them without a live engine. Then, assess the risk. Is it a serious engine fire or not? How many engines do you have? Risk can be defined as anything that could increase the likelihood of an accident occurring. In assessing risk, both the amount and the probability of that risk must be considered. Unfortunately, experiments have found that people tend to overestimate the frequency of a very rare but beneficial occurrence. We often see this tendency in gambling. On the other hand, estimates of the frequency of unpleasant events differ. Well-publicized events, such as air crashes, are overestimated, whereas less well-publicized events, such as near misses, are underestimated. Risk can be categorized in many ways. It can be described as external or objective risk. This means the risk of an accident happening unless something changes. For example, the risk of an aircraft crashing because it has an engine fire. Internal or subjective risk describes the inability of the crew to implement a solution, perhaps because of too little time, too little information, or inexperience. For example, if the crew decides to divert to an airfield because of the fire, but they have left the local map and the aerodrome radio frequencies book in the briefing room, then what was initially a medium risk situation has now become a high risk. The next step is to develop options to deal with the problem. Should you shut down the engine on fire? Or were the sparks and flames caused by the ingestion of a bird, in which case the fire may be over in a matter of seconds? Should you go on or divert? Then weigh up the options. If you do not divert but carry on, is something else unknown likely to happen, such as the loss of hydraulic pressure to the flaps caused in some way by the fire? Decide what to do after assessing the options. In our example, the fire in the engine will be extinguished, the engine closed down, and we will divert to the next suitable aerodrome. Another word used to describe this stage of the process is commitment. It is the point of no return. It may be that a decision must be delayed until more information is available. For example, is the diversion airfield operational? Tasks can now be assigned. The first officer is told to implement the decision. The cabin crew can be asked to confirm visually that the fire is out. Passengers will need reassurance, and air traffic need to know of the change to the flight plan. The execution of the decision needs to be supervised and monitored. The consequences of the actions need to be monitored, and a review carried out of whether the original objective was successfully achieved. If it was not, then the pilot must return to stage 1 and start again. There have been many studies and theories about risk, one of the most prominent being prospect theory, propounded by Tversky and Kahneman. It is based on the idea that people evaluate gains or losses from some neutral or status quo point, an assumption consistent with the adaptation level findings that occur not just in perception, but in virtually all experience. That is, we adapt to a constant level of virtually any psychological dimension and find it to be neutral, such as our perception of what is a high salary. A person earning £20,000 a year will regard £40,000 as a high salary, whereas someone earning £100,000 will regard £40,000 as low. So, our starting point shifts. Once this neutral point is established, Tversky and Kahneman found that people value a gain that is certain more than a gain that is less than certain, even when the expected value of each is the same. As regards losses, people are more risk-seeking when choosing between losses. They will clutch at straws to avoid a certain loss, even if it means taking even greater risks. The prospect theory research project told people to assume that there was a disease affecting 600 people, and they had two choices. Option A, where 200 of the 600 people will be saved, and option B, where there is a 33% chance that all 600 people will be saved, and a 66% chance that nobody will be saved. The majority chose option A, showing a preference for certainty of a gain, that is, people being saved. This is known as risk aversion behaviour. They were then offered two other choices: option C, where 400 people will die, and option D, where there is a 33% chance that nobody will die, and a 66% chance that all 600 people will die. Most people now selected option D, seeking to avoid the certainty of loss. This is known as risk-seeking behaviour. It is the wording of the options that makes a difference. A and C are the same, as are B and D. Given two equal choices, one expressed in terms of possible gains, and the other expressed in terms of possible losses, people would choose the former. In our example, they chose options A and D. Consider the pilot who has two choices. He can choose to turn back in the face of bad weather, with the certainty of disappointing passengers and incurring considerable hotel and fuel costs. These are certain losses. Alternatively, he can fly on with the chance of nothing going wrong, but with the risk of a catastrophe. These are uncertain but possibly greater losses. Prospect theory suggests that the pilot will choose to avoid the certainty of loss and will fly on. The important point is that if the pilot had framed his choices differently, he may have reached a different conclusion. For example, by emphasizing the certainty of a gain, namely of saving lives, compared to the uncertain gain of not disappointing the passengers by continuing. This completes our study of errors, behavior, and decision-making.